This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. Find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Visit the podcast page for show notes and links. Remember to like, share, and comment to help me grow. This is Swinging Through Comics, episode 76. Just a Man. I'm analyzing Spider-Man Life Story Annual Number 1, which released August 25th, 2021. The writer is Chip Zdarsky, the penciler is Mark Bagley, the inker is Andrew Hennessy, the color artist is Milla, or Mia, I'm not sure the pronunciation. Is that Italian or Spanish? The letterer is Travis Lanham, and the cover art was done by Chip Zdarsky. So, jumping right into the negative thing, this issue, Peter Parker 1978 looked a little weird. I like the costume, it's cool, but I think there's 2 pages. On the first page, he looks okay. On the second page, I don't know if it's because Bagley's pulling out on him, or maybe it's the inking, I'm not sure how that goes. But he looks a little weird. He almost looks, and he should look a little bit older, but I don't know how much older. Because it's 62 to 78, that's 16 years, so he's 31. I just don't know that he looks like a 31-year-old guy. I can't tell if he looks a little bit too old or a little bit too young, or maybe Peter Parker is just a good-looking guy and it sticks for a long time, and then he eventually turns into an old man. I'm not sure. But, yeah, it was a little, something felt wrong about his face. I like his posture and stuff, and I guess, yeah, the scraggly beard thing, too. Something about his mouth while he's on the phone in the panel above, where he's telling Jonah, you're crazy, let it go, he's just a man, that kind of stuff. Just felt off, but it also felt like Peter's a little disgusted by Jonah, and I like that, but just, I don't know, something felt off. He was either, he looked a little too young or a little too old, or a combination of the two, and it was kind of weird, but just that face at that time. Old Peter looks good, as usual, and Helen, too, because we've seen her young as well in the previous Life Story comics. So, yeah, that's my biggest negative. Peter Parker, 1978, a little bit of a funny face. Going on to the positives, I've got everything looked fantastic. Jonah Jameson, Jameson and Osborne, the moral. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, everything really looked great. The spider suit looked great. The, Scorpion looked great. Seeing young Norman Osborn and then old Norman Osborn, whoa, it sent shivers down my spine. And the new, I think we got to see, was there a total of 3 Scorpion suits total we got? I don't know. But then there was the really weird, Jameson robot, Slayer thing. And then there was the final Spider Slayer at the end there, which was really cool, which I like. I like how that thing works on multiple levels. It's like a Spider Goblin, or a Green Goblin themed Spider Slayer, but it's also a spider suit that Jonah Jameson gets into, or that JJ gets into, and it's interesting because he's getting into a spider suit and he's doing what Spider-Man did, and it's to correct his mistake that he created in the beginning. And anyway, the suit looks really good. I'm supposed to just be talking about the aesthetics. And then I loved seeing Jameson throughout his life and just turning into an old man. The only complaint is maybe he looks a little bit too much just like old Peter. Although I think old Peter's chubbier. Is that right? Yeah, he's a little thicker. But maybe that's my only complaint. Moving on to the next thing. So, yeah, this portrait, this character study of J. Jonah Jameson was really interesting. I've always liked him for being an ass and being, mean to Peter and being that kind of antagonist. But I think there's some people who genuinely like the character of J. Jonah Jameson, and I don't get it. He's a clown. He's almost literally a clown, who causes some bad stuff to happen sometimes. And I enjoyed the clownish aspect of it, but he's just always felt like a little bit of an empty character, and I've never really gotten it. But the insight into his wife Joan, which I find it hilarious. His son's Jonah Jameson. His wife was Joan Jameson, and he's JJ J. And it's just funny how apparently there's been an unbroken line of John Jonah Jamesons for a long time, or J. Jonah Jameson, I should say. So, but also that his wife is Joan. That's a little funny, a little on the nose. I don't know. But, was Joan Stanley's wife? I can't remember. I kind of think she was Joan Lee. Or if that was a little nod. Anyway, back to the point. This really interesting portrait gets painted of the man, and it all comes together at the end, but you need all of him being obsessed and wrong-headed about Spider-Man throughout to make it work. But it's just interesting, he doesn't like people who flout the law. He doesn't like people who are in masks, who hide themselves. He's out there publicly saying things. But then, he starts flouting the law, and he's okay with it because he's not in a mask, but he's hiding it, And he didn't come forward publicly and state that he was behind Scorpion, and it wasn't until Gargan was getting on in years and didn't want to die in prison that came out. So I just think it's a really interesting portrait of him, and it shows all these different sides, and it shows just how desperate and deep his obsession with Spider-Man went, and I really love how it ended, how he made amends, how he took responsibility. And one of the things I like best is that he says that he raised his son, I guess John. Yeah, he's John, right? He raised John. So it is John Jonah. I knew it was John for some reason. Anyway, but he named him, or no, he raised him rather, to be a man who would always take accountability of himself and always take responsibility for his actions and clean up his own messes. And after obfuscating and after pushing off and always trying to find a way to blame everything on Spider-Man, at the end of his life when he has nothing left, Jameson was able to come to that point where he was able to do that same thing. And I love that he was given the opportunity by Osborne, which it's switching into Jameson and Osborne. Both these men are obsessed with him till their dying day, but you can see, Norman Osborne has a heart attack preparing to kill Spider-Man and preparing to, and he was involved with the whole thing with Doc Ock and Ben and just the whole mess. Anyway, gosh, I'm just remembering back at the story and how good it is. And he was just waiting, and he was in the shadows, and he was doing all this stuff, all these years in prison that Osborne spent. He was figuring out how to fake it and how to get out so that he could spring this trap for Spider-Man. And even after he's dead, as part of his will, if Spider-Man's still around, there's something there for Jameson to use, because he was hoping that Jameson would be just as obsessed, just as bitter, just as unable to resist falling back on that hatred of Spider-Man and of pushing everything else out on somebody else instead of dealing with his own demons inside. And Jameson didn't take the bait. He was able to come to terms with who he is. And I love, this is getting me emotional, I love that he did it through Peter Parker. Peter Parker saved Jonah Jameson, and he did it because he, told him Spider-Man is just a man. And I think that struck a nerve in Jameson. And he said, yeah, he is just a man. He shouldn't be this high and mighty, whatever, floating above us all with his mask, hiding his identity. He doesn't face the same stresses as a regular man does. He doesn't face the same responsibilities, even though, again, these are things that Jameson himself had avoided facing by getting out of the whole Gargan Scorpion thing for so long. But ultimately, he fell to it, and he kind of said, you know what, Spider-Man's a man, he's made mistakes, and he should fix them, but I need to hold myself to that same standard. I'm going to make my mistakes right as best as I can. And I love that, and I love that he died doing the right thing. I love that he died a hero. I love that he was able to turn that around, and he was able to let go, and that, like I said, the loss of Peter Parker was something that Jameson thought he could commiserate on him with, and that he could just use it. And I love Peter's line, something like you can't even be a human being, you can't even be decent, it's just all about your vendetta against Spider-Man. That's why you're reaching out to me. It's not because you are sorry for me because my wife is dead. It's because it's just another thing that you can use as an angle to hurt Spider-Man, or to justify yourself in being so hateful and vindictive towards Spider-Man and wanting him to be brought to... It's just another piece of evidence that says Spider-Man's a menace. And he said, no, you're a better man than this, so do better. And I think all that stuff stuck with Jameson, and eventually he did better, and he owned up to himself. And I'm just kind of repeating myself, but it's hitting me that, Spider-Man brought tragedy to Jameson and Peter Parker, but Peter Parker was able to give Jameson the inspiration he needed to fix a mistake that was born out of his hatred for Spider-Man, which was the Scorpion. And it's just so beautiful. It really has this back and forth, the books are having, the books and the stories are having this conversation with each other, and they're talking about this obsession and letting go of that hate. And I don't know, I'm thinking about how at the end of a life story, it's revealed that Peter, his dream, in his final dream that he has before he goes up to the spaceship and whatever, he dreams that he saves Uncle Ben, and that it's at the end of his life he's finally been able to give like at the end of Peter's life, he's finally been able to forgive Spider-Man for what he did, or forgive himself for what he did, or what he failed to do, just like Jameson's able to forgive Spider-Man and make his apology make things right for what he screwed up. And I think it's just so beautiful. I think there's really well, my next thing is the moral. The moral is about letting go of the hate, and maybe not just letting go of the hate, but actively working to solve the problem. Like, you can roast in your own juices, you can stew over something that makes you emotional, makes you angry, makes you sad. You can just dwell on that, or you can take action. And I think there's a moral here about working through your problems yourself, and maybe with help from others, because Gwen was there with Jameson and the others. But like, you can work through your problems. You can sit there inactively, so to speak, and work through the problems on your own. But like, beyond that, you need to take action in the world to make things good, to make things the way they should be, to make things better, to leave the world a better place. As a callback to another Spider-Man life story analysis and title of a review that I did. And that's really beautiful, because even though you're just a man, even though you're just a woman, even though you're just a kid, you do have the power to affect the world. You do have the power to change things for the worse or for the better, and the choice is up to you. So, real quick to close out, I have some reflections and thoughts and questions that were sparked by this comic. First one is, does Triple J ever suffer the consequences of his crimes in the comics? I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I'm sure somebody knows, and they could tell me maybe, and I could look that up myself. But it's interesting that it never seems to happen. Maybe socially, he becomes a pariah or whatever for a while, but I would imagine that has to go away over the decades. So, next question, does Helen have a point that superheroes are a beacon for sorrow? Is that true in the stories, or just metatextually? Because, yeah, obviously, if you have somebody who's the main character or something, everybody around them has to be affected by it eventually. And, is that a real thing or not? Are you, everyone's the hero of their own story, right? So are you a beacon for sorrow for people in your own lives? I don't know about that. It's probably more of a metatextual thing, but just something I was thinking about. And then, did this change the way you see J. Jonah Jameson? And would you like to see more Spider-Man life story annuals like this? I'm going to say yes. It changed the way I see Jonah, or Jameson, and it's a big deal. It really makes me connect to his character and feel for him a lot, and just perceive him in a really great way that I've never been able to before. And I would love to see more Spider-Man life story annuals like this. Have Peter show up for a couple of pages, Spider-Man show up for a page or two, and the rest of it can be devoted to somebody working out, who they are, just giving a character study, a portrait of this fictional character. I think it's really fascinating, because it can address so many things. Like, I was thinking about, Jonah's talking about how he's all about the truth, and how he'd become obsessed, and how he was deluded. I mean, it makes me think of, like, Trump derangement syndrome. It makes me think of, people who are just politically, losing their minds over things, and like, you can live your life. You can live your life despite the fact that other people over there are doing things that you don't like. I think that's a really important lesson. I think you can see those sorts of things through stories like this. And like, I don't know where ZDARSKY is politically. He could be, he could have TDS, but like, it doesn't matter, because he's still writing a story that has a point that is the antidote for that. If you take it to heart and listen to it, you can just still live your life and do the best you can do for those around you and for yourself, and not care who's in a Oval Office. And I think that's what you should do. But anyway, really, I got to close this out. This is a very strong recommend, even without having, just if you've seen like the movies or the TV show, or at least the 90s show. I don't know what the other ones, how they deal with Jameson. Yeah, it's worthwhile. It's a very worthwhile story. I almost think it's so well written that you don't even need all the context. Like, they set you up. They tell you about Gargan. They show you the the weird robot with the tentacles or whatever. They show you these things, and it just works itself out, I think, really beautifully. And yeah, anybody could read this. I'm gonna give the art a 5 out of 5 and the story a 5 out of 5. Even though I had that quibble with the Pete looking kind of weird in the 70s or 78 or whatever that was. I could I can forgive that. And honestly, old Pete at Jonah's funeral, like right before or right after, I'm not sure, 9/11, 2001, was the same thing. very close to. Oh man, I didn't even pick up on that, did I? I didn't pick up on Jonah's release date. I'm actually going to go into the comic and look at that real quick. But anyway, I just still thought it was fabulous, even though I said I can quibble with a couple things. Old Peter looked a little rough, but you know, he's older. There should be more lines on his face, so I'm technically okay with that. It's just it kind of threw me for a minute. Just like his shocked face, his surprised face looked a little funny. I'll be honest. So I just want to give it a pass because I enjoyed the book so much, and honestly, the more I enjoy the book, I think the more I'm willing to forgive out of things. So I'm just zooming around real quick to verify. When does Jonah get out? So that's the year. Okay, that's 95. Man, yeah, he gets out 2001. It doesn't say when, but we know Peter's funeral, or Peter goes to Jameson's funeral, and it's around 9/11 because then there's that picture of him helping. I don't know if it's in the World Trade Center, one of the buildings or not, but he's helping there. So anyway, I'm gonna get all weepy again if I keep talking about that, thinking about that. So I'm gonna stop. Yeah, I'm gonna stop. This is a great book. I loved it, and I hope you. I'd love to hear your perspectives on it, and yeah, I'd love to hear your perspectives on it. Although I do really love Gwen Helen's thing about saying that Peter's is trapped in the web of Spider-Man as Jonah was. I think it's a really great touch. Thank you for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed this. Check out my growing collections of analysis, art, and fiction. The bottom of the show notes might just feature a design relevant to the topic at hand. Click around and find out. You can also visit mjmanus.com/support to see my latest designs and more. I welcome all forms of critique to improve my craft, so don't hold back any comments you have for me. I leave you with peace and blessings. This is MJ, signing out.